Greetings, everyone. Nate the Nerdarch here from Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. With me, I have Nerdarchist Dave and our guest, DFC or Andrew.
Hi, everybody.
And Andrew, do you want to start it off with anything particular or topic you wanted to discuss?
Oh, well, we're all gamers, and that's a unifying factor. But I think kind of what we've had in common is the idea of, like your title says, full-time game mastering and treating this like a job and things like that. Or just open up to other topics. It's a nice open morning for me. I ran my games, did my chats yesterday, so feeling pretty good. Hang out with the nerds.
Yeah, so just before we got started here, we were talking, and me and Andrew put our heads together, and we figured it out. You just went full time, essentially when last time we had you on. So it's been a little bit, and actually, I just went full time myself. So I'm not going back to my construction job. I mentioned it yesterday and Saturday, but for you guys that are on here that weren't on either of those live streams, so that's the deal. I'm doing Nerdarchy full time, and I want to thank all you guys because you made that possible. And people like Andrew are out there doing it, inspiring us to pursue our dreams. So that's pretty awesome in and of itself.
Congrats.
And it's been really cool watching you grow because I know when we first started, I think you were around where we are right now.
I think so.
Actually, right around 30,000, and then you exploded like 50,000 more fast.
It doesn't feel fast to me, but it's probably because I check it like everything. You don't see the growth.
Well, by fast 3 years, But when you think of how long it took you to get the first 30,000, the next 50, that was pretty fast.
That's the good and bad way that I think the YouTube algorithm works, is that the more you get viewed, the more you'll get viewed. And then if you don't get views, you really don't get views, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's been my experience as well. You hit certain levels, and then it's like all of a sudden YouTube decides to acknowledge you.
Yeah, and I recently hired a SEO kind of optimizer person to kind of go over the channel, and there's so many things behind the scenes of how that all crunches out and works, and it's madness. And it's not about your quality, really. Exactly. I mean, that's a part. It's more about the words, the keywords you put in, the watch time, the frequency that you are watched. But then if you get watched too much, then it's bad. I just know I'll put out tabletop gaming content when I'm inspired to do so, and I'm inspired to do so all the time. So it's working so far.
Makes it easy that way. Yeah, someone had asked me, or I guess I was talking to another creator about content, and I was like, I'm sorry, but they're like, I think my content's really good and unique. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but it's not relevant. Like to people watching your YouTube channel anyway, it just doesn't matter how good your stuff is. It is all about the algorithm and how many people get on there. So unfortunately, that's just one of the factors that doesn't even go into the mix until you start getting viewed. Now, obviously, if you don't put out good content that people enjoy, well, they're not going to come back. So that is the kicker.
Yeah, it's got to be good enough, and it's not really about your production value in this medium anyway. The tabletop games is largely imaginative, so it's really, are you engaging and are you doing what you can to make people feel welcome if and when they do arrive? And then are you working with the bigger channels to promote your stuff, to say, hey, can I make a video for you, and link my channel at the end of it? It'll be some topic that I'm really passionate about, and most heavy-minded people will, yeah, that'd be great. I'm happy to share, happy to promote you, because it makes you look, you may have the vision of the sort of everything kind of the gaming world's coming together, or you just may want to be seen as, oh, look how charitable I am. But whatever the case, it helps a lot, and you gotta keep that in mind. That it's not just about put your head down, focus in yourself, and then if I just put out content that I think is good, then I can go full time and quit my job. No.
So there's a couple things. One I completely agree, but I will say there is at a certain point that the production value really does matter. But most of us, it's not attainable for most people. Like if you look at WebDM, like they do it very well, but they also have a professional TV guy that works with them. So like, I look at that and go, what are you going to do? And they put out good content. If they had that level of production without good content, no one will watch. They would just look really good and put out shitty content, but they put out good content and they have a super high level of production. So they get rewarded from the fans. Also, Scott Garrity has a question for you, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of his favorite ones too, I think. He wants to know what you think about the upcoming D&D movie.
There's an upcoming D&D movie?
Scott loves talking about the D&D movies and what it can do for the industry.
So there's your answer, Scott.
I've seen the ones that have come out before, and they don't really do much for the hobby, I will have to say. So they've done kind of, wow, this is lame and cheesy and corny and awful. So hopefully, I think the World of Warcraft movie and Lord of the Rings have done a lot more for tabletop gaming than specific tabletop gaming related videos. It's just tap in, don't make us feel like we're sitting at a table and watching this and feel like I'm part of the story, and then you want to go and play it. I watched Lord of the Rings with my friends. We went and played D&D immediately because we're so inspired. If you kind of hitting the nail right on the head by trying to make something that respect, though, I did like Jeremy Irons' performance because he's like, screw it, guys, let's just go crazy and I'm in a D&D movie.
He's like, I'm in the worst movie ever, but at least I'm getting paid.
I paid a lot, man.
Yeah, as far as D&D movies for me, if you're going to put out something that's based on a product in which at least 1/5 of the community writes stories for their fun, like that's what they do, you got to make a good, compelling story with great characters, or it's just not gonna. It's just gonna fall flat.
Or
they could go the other way, and they could just serialize it and like kind of like what they've been doing with Star Wars. It's like Star Wars, every year there's a movie or there's clone, there's all the rebellion stuff, there's all kinds of stuff, cartoons, all kinds of stuff. So they could either go like make a really substantial, fantastic movie or trilogy, or they could just shotgun approach, like just continuous amounts of stories, do stuff in Faerun, do stuff in Dragonlance, do Dark Sun, whatever, and just kind of go out there with it rather than make something that kind of falls flat.
I'm going to dive back into the chat real quick. So Brian F., they should make Dragonlance movie the franchise, and if they do anything, it's going to be Forgotten Realms, I imagine. Now, Eberron would be a lot of fun, but I don't think they would do that one. That Eberron would be great because it's so much different than typical fantasy, and we have the technology now to do a good Eberron movie, so that would be awesome. And then somebody asked, Brian Smith, now that you're doing D&D for work, what do you do with your downtime? What downtime? Now I work twice as hard.
Yeah, he just does all D&D all the time.
It is a lot of work, and I just got D&D has always been work. Even when I wasn't doing it for money, I've put in time in designing the maps and the adventures and the dungeons, and it's in the role of the DM is not a relaxing role. It's never been. Players have it easy. A DM has always been working, so I've always seen it as some sort of work. And then, it's fantastic that I can do it from home and do it when it works around my schedule. So usually, if I'm not at the computer, I'm with my family or watching shows or going for walks or those kind of things. It's really wonderful to have such a flexible.
So Sue Rainey says, just read up on it. Forgotten Realms, it is. I can't remember if I had seen that or not.
I gotta look up whatever this thing is, but in terms of movies, I think they've got especially D&D, you have to hit that, and I think they can make it more readily because of technology, green screens, and things like that. But what that ends up doing is really, because other things can be made that way, it's kind of a made for TV movie kind of feel, or Sci-Fi Channel produced, or whatever you want to call it, of this is a little cheesy, a little not so great, and it ends up not really hitting the mark just because of the production value and the reliance on those things. Think the Shannara series, which I devoured the Sword of Shannara and all those books, but the show looked completely uninteresting to me. And it was on a channel that, I don't watch TV or anything, so didn't have access.
Did you watch the series or no?
I watched the first episode and I was like, this reminds me of like if you remember Hercules and Xena on TV in the old days, those kind of things.
Now, I watched the series and enjoyed it, but I had not read any of the books. So I didn't have any preconceived notions.
They're good. They're classic fantasy along the vein of Lord of the Rings ish, but a little more not so linguistic, I would say. All right.
I get crucified for this, but like now I could not go back and read the Lord of the Rings books. They would not interest me in the least. It's just when I first read them, and I'm glad that I started reading there, it was great. But now, having read so much, it's pretty tame, and I prefer books and stories that are more cinematic, and I don't really care for the gritty realism as much.
Which is the direction that things are going in. But hopefully people are going to get fed up with it enough at this point to say, we're kind of sick of the Batman and Superman and everything is dark and gray and gritty. And they're just like, let's just have a good guy and a bad guy, and we know who they are, and have the good guy having a hard time, and then the good guy wins. Can we have this?
We still have Marvel Studios, at least.
They got at least that. Though even they're like Civil War and everyone hates each other and let's get
but that's staying pretty true to the comic book trope. I mean, if you read comic books, it's always been there. Like, you can't have a team up without them fighting each other first. There's like a rule somewhere, I'm pretty sure. And it speaks to my inner 13-year-old.
Yeah, like you have your favorites. The only comic I read with any consistency was Knights of the Square Table. And that's only because I worked in a comic book store for about 6 months. So I read that a lot. But outside of there, we would have like X-Men cards we collected, my brothers and I. And you always wanted to, like, my guy could beat your guy, whoever you picked as your favorite, which all young kids, teenagers, they pick their favorite. And then if anyone says anything negative about it, it's as if they stabbed them in the chest. Some equivalency of what you like equals your value as a person. So then, having them fight against each other was always a fun, enjoyable. And you guys did, and I have a couple times of D&D-izing different characters. So you can see it how it might be, and then let's battle these guys together. Though I have to say, I don't think 5e is a very difficult system to create characters in.
No. The fans love that stuff, though. We actually have the Sword of Omens coming up on Friday, I think. We haven't done one in a while, so we delve back in there. Daniel Kirby, so question for all of you. Do you have a favorite class that you really enjoy playing in 5e? And I suspect Andrew is going to have the same problem that I have.
Paladins aren't lawful good.
Well, that could be. Or maybe you're running way more games than you play in.
That's absolutely the case. So I get to play. I'm not in any D&D games now. I just actually had to put our Shadowrun game on hiatus, so I'm currently playing in nothing. and I haven't. The most I've gotten, I got to play a barbarian for like 40 sessions, but that was an in-person game before I did this full time. I don't know. It's not about the classes in 5e for me at all. The mechanics are really light and not very engaging compared to previous editions of the game, where there's complexity to your choices, and the numbers actually are an effort, and you can get a baseline and then new people can play it, but there's not that depth afterwards of, you know, really optimizing your character statistically, which I really enjoy. As far as role playing, you can role play in any system, as I say very frequently. So it's not like I can only role play this in 5e. But that said, if I had a class that I get to play, I don't know. I don't play too much, but I think the bard would be engaging. The ones that have a little more to someone, a spellcaster, definitely. Someone who has something they can do on every turn and even nearly every action during the turn, to me, is more exciting, interesting.
That's definitely one of the things. That's one of the things with this edition is figuring out how to optimize. That's where like that's where the optimization comes in. Can I use all my actions, or are you a class that only, you know, basically ignores your bonus actions and your reactions all the time? I've been playing the same character for like 2 years now, and that doesn't even equate to 40 sessions. It's only, I think Ted's game is up to like 27 or 28 sessions now, and you know, and that's playing a fighter wizard dwarf, which I've had a ton of fun with. As far as you know, I've also played a sorcerer druid, and I've played a barbarian. You know, I'm kind of with you. I really don't care about the class per se, because I can have fun playing any of them. I wish Juice's game would have been more consistent and would have continued on. I thought that character was going to be fun to play. The druid Warforged.
I'm pretty sure you've discovered this, that if you're not game, it's probably going to fail, or like you as your team, because it requires that consistency and that force of personality and the understanding of, I'm committing to this. And I know it's hard for other people in their schedules, but it is rather disappointing when you get really excited for something and then, oh, we can't keep doing it.
Yeah, the dynamic was really good in that group too. Unfortunately, I think Juice works like obscene amounts of hours now. I feel bad for him. It's brutal.
I thought he was a real estate guy, and then now he's doing something else that's not so flexible.
Yeah. Like I know I've been chatting with him on Messenger at like 1 a.m. and he's at work. So yeah, it's brutal.
I'm at here at 1 a.m, but I'm probably playing World of Warcraft or something.
Yeah. It's not quite the same thing.
At work.
What about you, Nate? You want to weigh in?
I enjoyed. I've only played in 5th edition. Nature Cleric, a Thief, and a Barbarian Sorcerer. I enjoyed the Barbarian Sorcerer, but really, I mean, I know as soon as I get to play a Mystic Wujen, that's going to be my favorite character, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I've already played. I know I'm going to love Mystic Wujen.
You think so?
Yeah, I've read it enough. I've kind of like thought it through to different levels. It just seems like a really fun character to play.
Are you dreaming about it yet?
I'm dreaming while awake.
It's a psychic sort of expression, I would think. Yeah, the brain energies and other things are elevating. I really like what they've done with that, the mystic and the direction that they're moving in, sort of, and then they backtrack this week and like more choices and options, have a more dynamic, interesting, engaging character creation process. You did a great job creating it as accessible for beginners. Absolutely. It is not at all, to me, interesting or engaging or complex or difficult for experienced players when it comes to character creation. The optimization is extremely limited, and if you're really experienced in the game, you can figure that out, and then you're like, well, what else is here? I want more. Where's the crunch? Where's the fluff? Where's what I need to really feel like my choices matter on the character sheet side? Again, we're not excluding role-playing. Role-playing is in every system. that has its own complexity. But when you're looking at a system, why can't we, where are the options, where are the choices that we need? I found it really lacking, but I'm glad that they moved in that direction. It seemed with the psionics. For sure, they have so many options. You pick 2 or 3 disciplines and you have access to 25 skills. It's crazy.
And the talents are good, every time power when you need it, and they've got it's a good amount of variability, and just the power points that you can use for the different things, especially for the Wu Gen, because you get to select spells and make spell slots, and there's a lot of interesting things. I just like that each discipline you can do like 4 or 5 things sometimes, based on what's required and what power level you're at.
It's engaging. Whereas the other stuff that comes out are nearly all passive abilities, which that makes them easier to work with. You just make a change on your character sheet and then you got it moving forward. But it doesn't mean you have to have, there's no difficult choices when it comes to here's combat and what am I going to do now? There's not really trade-offs. There's not really any complexity of, it's pretty straightforward. I have my best things because my passives boost this, and I'm just going to do those over and over and over again for the most part. Spellcasters are a little better.
Some classes are worse than others for that. For instance, the Warlock. It's finally with the latest version in the Unearthed Arcana, there's some more options, but before that it's what's the Warlock going to do? He's going to do the only thing they can do, Eldritch Blast, because he used his 2 spells already. And one of them was Hex, so that he could Eldritch Blast better.
What 5 times out of 6, it's a weird fraction, but your short rest is going to equal a long rest, so that advantage of 2 that they recharge more quickly is rarely going to be tapped into. And it just ends up you have almost nothing you can do except this cantrip that we boosted with 4 different invocations. Just use it over and over again. Here, we want you to do it. Unlimial. Ad nauseum.
But, at the same time, I see where you're coming from, but I do like the fact that a lot of the choices you make in 5th edition are more relevant. If you take a system like 3.5 or Pathfinder, it's +2 minus, they're all these microtransactions. It's just that you get a lot of them, and you can tally them up, and then, but then it starts looking like a balance sheet, by the time you get done. So I find as I get older, the less crunchy systems I want to play, and I'm more interested in the rules light systems. But that's just personal preference.
No, it always is. At least right now for me, my general stance is I would like to play Pathfinder the most with players who are good at role playing, and not play D&D with players who are good at optimization. You just want to play with good people. That's really the main thing, more than any system, more than anything, is players that are there to work as a group. They understand role playing, they understand storytelling, and they understand the mechanics. So when their turns come up, you're not just sitting there waiting for them to add things up. They've already totaled that. They already know what they're doing. And that level of proficiency, I think, is the more complex the game system, the more rewarding has been when everyone's on their game. When you're on your game in 5e, mechanically wise, it's not really all that extra rewarding in my experience. But yeah, I can see the appeal, certainly. If I love DMing 5e, I do not like DMing Pathfinder. 5e is do whatever you want, you make it up. We didn't take time to fill in half the book on answering these questions, so you got to do it. Okay.
Well, there's that aspect, but then there's also the aspect of, in some ways, it gives the players a lot more freedom too, because you as the DM are making the rules as you go. Where in a system that is very stringently defined, the players can fight with you on every single rule because someone took the time to spell it out, and they don't want to hear I'm the DM. That's why they play that system, for those things. There's pros and cons to everything. We could go back and forth all day, I'm sure.
Mm.
LexKey81, you guys know any cool Conan miniatures to buy? I think Ted just spent like $5,000 on Conan miniatures.
Those figures may have been exaggerated.
He backed the
Wow.
Conan Kickstarter and got like a couple of them, and like he's got his house is oozing Conan miniatures. You should contact Nerdarchy Ted. He might have one or two for you. He'll sign it. Eridas, Nate, what spells would you pick up as a Wujen?
Oh, well, first, this is the thing with Wujen. I would take Mastery of Weather, probably Mastery of Force, and what's the other one? Mastery of Light and Darkness to start. So that kind of gives you an idea of the type of character I'm playing, more like sorcerer, like spooky sorcerer kind of feel, rather than like just blasting stuff out. So I'd want to take things that are going to be doing damage that I can actually cast. And you can't do third level spells when you get the actual power, though. So because you can't create the spell slot for it, I believe. So you got to start off with like things like Flaming Sphere and stuff, or probably like Scorching. Do they have Scorching Ray in this edition? I don't remember.
Yes, they do.
I've been spell casting as a cleric so much, I don't really get to check out the things except for when I dungeon master. So that's kind of what I go for. A little bit of fire spells, I think, that are kind of flashy. Not Magic Missile unless I would reflavor it into something else, but just kind of like the simple damage spells, because I'm taking mostly non-damage stuff with the Wujen abilities that I start off with anyway.
Staff Writer Scott wants to know what Andrew thinks about Starfinder.
So I have an interview coming up with the creator, so that's going to be exciting. We're going to dig into what it is and get a little more about it. I have to say that sci-fi has never been my genre. I enjoy some of it. I really enjoy Star Trek and usually Star Wars, but when it comes to fantasy or like tabletop gaming, I just gravitate mostly towards fantasy. So when it came out, I was certainly interested in general, but I can't say that I have the tingle and excitement and I'm checking updates every day, kind of in an eagerness for this to come out. I really have to be sold a little bit more on it, which ideally, because I'm talking to the guy who made it, that will be something that will get me excited. I know it's just, and I don't know if you guys have this experience, but running fantasy is much easier to describe how things work and come up with things on the fly for you can create it in level of detail, because either it's just magic or the technology is not so complex. But when it comes to sci-fi, even I'm running like a steampunk themed game where they have airships, and I don't know anything about cars and engines. Somebody said, all right, so how does it run? I'm like, it's a magic engine that
at that point you just turn to him and you're like, dude, don't be a dick.
You guys have that problem? Can you just, like, with more higher technology, you feel less confident in that aspect of it anyway?
I just wing it.
I grew up in the hood, man. We just BS our way through. No, you know what? I actually really like playing like supers games, but modern, because I like busting out the pop culture references. Like I did a King Kong session, and I used Bubbles, Michael Jackson's chimp, as my King Kong. I had planned on using later on having Michael Jackson be like some kind of zombie lord. Then I was going to have Trump in it, and I was going to have like his hair actually be like a symbiote alien or something. I made like a Incredible Hulk character out of Mr. T. So I have a lot of fun with that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I could see how if you have like really serious players that want like hardcore realism, how that would be a problem and that'd be annoying. I think that would probably be something to discuss in a session 0 as a GM. Be like, look, this is the kind of game we're running, and I'm not a freaking engineer, so relax. So,
Yeah, I answered a question on Ask a DM, the show I do tomorrow, and it comes out in the middle of, someone was asking about guns in D&D or these kind of things, and part of the answer was 5e D&D is not meant to be a historical simulation whatsoever. It's not meant to properly emulate fighting styles and what armor actually feels like when you're wearing it. I know you LARP on the weekends, but this is not, I know you read all the things about 13th century horse riding, okay? But 5e D&D is about Dungeons and Dragons and swords. It's not a system for that. It's not designed for that. It doesn't include things for that. So it's to try and force that system to be realistic, and there's dragons and magic flying around. It has been, I think, is really missing the mark. Though, if I break away from that a little bit, I've seen we played in 1 or 2 sessions. Ryan has played in one of my one shots, and and I've seen some of your games. I would say that your games are more fun than mine are, but you have to define fun in like everyone in different ways, right? Your guys are laughing around the table and you're having the jokes and stuff, and then I'm manipulating and leaving my players feeling like, oh my god, I just got taken advantage of, and those kind of things. I think you absolutely have to set that precedent at the beginning to understand what you're getting into. Mm-hmm. Essential.
Yeah, there's different play styles, and I've played the gambit, and I can enjoy them all. But you're right. Like, our home groups are definitely more casual, for sure. And then it just depends on like our one shots, what's going on. Where the Scarlet Sisterhood game I'm running, that one kind of fluctuates from session to session, but it tends to be a little bit more serious, a little heavier on the role play side.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk. There's a lot of talking during that 2 hours.
Yeah. Not the last session. The session before that got a little emotional for some of the players. So I was like, oh no.
That's awesome. I mean, when that happens, I find it very enjoyable because a lot of people are coming. They're absolutely, some are coming to do the damage, do the optimization, do the cool thing, do the outlandish thing, and others are coming to tell a story and be impacted in it and play their character in role-playing ways. And you really have to talk about it so that are you going to get the opportunity to really flesh this out or not? And I think your Scarlet Sisters, they're kind of mostly inexperienced, right? Or how's that kind of their level of play?
In that game, it varies. A couple of them are dungeon masters and one is very new.
Okay. Yeah, because that can make another big difference. Not just your experience, how much you've played, but that you have come to know your preference over time, having played with different people and had those experiences. Is hard for new players to say. I've kind of backed away from commanding or it's recommending that, because you need the language to say and the experience to know, I like this better than this, and I would like and prefer a game that focuses here. If you can't elucidate that, then hey, you're going to run into all sorts of difficulties or just a hard time gelling with the rest of the group.
We kind of speaking to that, like Nerdarchy has been so self-contained for so long as a gaming group. It isn't really until we started doing Nerdarchy that we got exposed to a lot of different ideas, because we didn't game in shops. It was always someone's basement, someone's kitchen table, someone's dining room. A group of friends would get together, and a new player would show up when you met somebody at work, or a friend brought a friend, something along those lines. So things like we never really thought about play styles, session zero, social contract, all these things, and they're great tools to use, and really, like, for a new gamer, they just need to play as many different games as they can and figure out what they like. get in there. I was thinking though, when you're talking about the airship and the player asking you how it works, I would so want to Looney Tune him. You know how Wile E. Coyote runs off the cliff, and it's only after he realizes that he's standing on the air and wonders how he's doing that he falls.
Yeah, that seems exactly like the kind of, it said a tonal thing, and the theme of that game is kind of their oppressed rebels, and the first session was me interrogating each of their characters. One of them I even tortured. So that would feel like a little jarring, but it could really help the tone in certain moments, right? Of this is oppressed and this is heavy. Let's lighten it up in this kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. It's a clear stylization difference between us. I think I would, however, really enjoy playing in a game that's a little more, not so serious very much, just to have that break. And you guys also have the benefit, which I'm certainly jealous of you have a solid, consistent, committed group in person, and you had that for a while, which is incredible, because in-person gaming is always my preference, and you get to know the people that you're with, you get to understand their styles and what they're after, and you have inside jokes and all those things. So, big congrats on that. I haven't for more than a couple of years.
Yeah, well, our group has fluctuated from down to like 3 players and a DM to like 14 people at the table. But we've been the most consistent since starting Nerdarchy. But that's also because we go out to places as Nerdarchy and just meet people, and you gel with people, and it kind of works. And the fact that there's 4 of us to begin with is like you almost have a group already. So that definitely makes it a lot easier. And then we've picked up people along the way, like Scott Garibay, who's now one of our staff writers and contributes on our videos sometimes. So it's definitely, I think that's the thing, is you kind of, it might depend on your area too. We're lucky. We live on the East Coast, dense population. I mean, we're between Philadelphia and New York, so there's a ton of people to draw from as well. So it really does make it a lot easier. Let's see, 00Zim00. Do you guys have any cool April Fool videos planned? I don't know that we do. We should, though. We should. What about you, Andrew? Are you doing anything special for April Fools?
I don't really end up adapting most of my content to the holidays and the yearly cycle. I used to know everything that was going on because I was in a school, and they'd have days off and things written on the calendar, and we'd do different. Oh, it's a theme. Let's do some pilgrim thing and Thanksgiving. But now I barely, sometimes St. Patrick's Day came and went, and I had no idea that it didn't even come to mind. So, and then there's like a whole bunch of made up, right? They're all made up, but more recently made up holidays, like Speak Like a Pirate Day and table. Like you could celebrate pretty much a day every day. And I don't know. I think it's been really helpful to establish a video schedule and try and stick with it. So I don't know. I think I'm funny and I have fun humor, but it's not gotcha humor. I think I do a pretty bad job with an April Fool's joke. People would probably take me too seriously, and it would end up offending people, which I don't mind too much. But yeah, I think my execution better in a spirit of fun and frivolity.
I think we've done one video that would have classified for that and would have been perfect for it, and we did not release it on April Fool's Day, which we should have. Would have been a good one. And we just basically did a video where Nate asked the rest of us about playing a necromancer, or doing a necromancer video or something like that, no, it's probably like a good necromancer. And we're just like, no, and then the video ends. And we later on did like a video on necromancers. Good necromancers are my pet peeve anyway.
I'm sure it comes up a lot for you guys that there's a good number of people who really want to play evil characters, but have them justified and somehow exceptionalized so that they can play them. They know they're not really group focused team player classes, so they put in a couple things just to tweak it. or they even do that. They just like, I want to play the wicked, evil, dark, spooky, powerful Sephiroth bad guy sort of thing. And I get asked about that quite frequently.
I bet. I categorize those people in one group and one group only. I'm so goth. But yeah, everyone has fun in a different way, each to their own. I just cannot justify ripping people from the underworld to animate their corpses. Otherwise it would just be an animated object spell, right? Really. It's not animate dead.
Crazy necromancer. He's just trying to have fun and play with people, and regular people won't play with him. He has to make his own friends, and that's sad, and you should take pity on him and let him have his undead.
Makes a huge impact. And I think this is really neglected in many games, that there are gods and afterlives, and you can go, people die and you can go see them, and we don't have that direct experience in our world. So I don't think many players consider and think about that. Many don't choose a god to worship whatsoever. They assume if you are following a deity, you have to be a cleric or a paladin. But when there is an afterworld, an afterlife, and you know exactly what's going to happen, that should really impact your approach to killing things and souls and death and resurrection. And I don't see that it really does for most players. But I think you could justify a lot of things if you had that more fleshed out and could respond to more clearly.
I was just thinking, I'm like, imagine if I dug up your grandmother and sat her at the gaming table next to you. How would you feel about that? Like,
hey, these are just people off in the distance. It's somebody's skeleton. You don't know them.
Well, it's true.
And why do I have to animate people? Why can't I animate animals or rat bat things?
Rat bat things?
Yeah, that's my companion, Nebuchadnezzar.
No, only fish. Only fish. They don't have feelings.
Oh, that's right. Okay. I just have to cast fly spells on them.
Oh my god. That's so bad. Flying undead fish. There you go. That's gonna be our April Fool's video. We'll do a monster video on flying undead carp.
So as far as theme stuff for holidays, I kind of follow that when I do the Patreon rewards for our Patreon members. Like for over Christmas and January holiday time, I did like a shout out to the Heat Miser and the Cold Miser from the old, like, if you're familiar with that old like claymation animated holiday stuff. So I did like hot and cold based things, and they kind of had a conflict going on. And then for April, I'm going to have our friend or foe is going to be Spring-Heeled Jack, which is kind of like this. I never heard of it until Dave mentioned it. It's like this guy in the 1800s that no one knows who he really was, but he kind of just trolled around the place in messing with people and stuff, and some people said he had metal claws on his hand and stuff, and he could leap like 9 feet in the air. Kind of ridiculous tall tale stuff, but it wasn't like 300 or 400 years ago. It was more recent. So, and then for the monster, we're going to have the Trickster, which is like a shape-changing coyote thing that is featured in a lot of folklore stories, but there's an actual creature that goes around trying to trick people and coerce them into doing silly things or things that get them into bad, precarious situations. So that's like kind of the April Fool's thing, but it's not like trickery in the sense of we're not trying to trick our fans or our subscribers and things. I don't really dig that kind of trickery.
Nah. I did a Christmas themed one that Santa was they were trying to rescue Santa from a big ice palace, but then it turns out that he's the one who's been causing a lot of like torment in the world, because people were just asking him for presents and not thanking him, and he just got super mad at that. And now the party can either try and redeem him with the Grinch, who is a paladin because his heart grew 3 sizes, so he's out there to redeem himself, or just kill Santa and save the world that way. Those are fun, I think, but rather I feel like the other smaller holidays usually.
It makes me, I don't know why, but it makes me think of do you read Jim Butcher at all?
I don't read very much. I don't have time.
Yeah, I haven't. I have not read recently, but yeah, I'll make time for Jim Butcher. So the Dresden Files. Santa Claus is a Fey character in the Jim Butcher world. He also is somebody else too, but I'm not going to spoil it for people just in case. So he basically, they describe him as being a badass Fey creature. Up there like on par with like the higher levels of the summer and winter courts. So it's definitely an interesting take. I think Ryan's done quite a few themed adventures. The one we actually have on our website for sale is the Crinch that stole Father's Winter's Day. Yeah, so you figure out where that's a lift from. And we actually like doing a lot of that kind of stuff. We've done different things like adventure based off of the TV series when animals attack. We've done a Little Shop of Horrors parody. So anytime we can throw that kind of stuff in, I think it's a lot of fun. Little Easter eggs that hopefully like your players don't find it out until like later into the adventure and they get the aha moment.
Those are really enjoyable, and that you're playing online too or broadcasting them means that people who have watched, because most of my games are set in the same world but different parts of it and telling different stories, that it adds a whole nother layer to the experience, that the players may pick up on some things or not. These Easter eggs that you include homages to previous games or little fun things that you got to pay attention to know the shout outs. But when there's also the viewers who are watching your games and following that too, it really, this huge amount of connectivity. I mean, there's even like certain communities, which I will not name, that are just fanatical about the story and connecting with other people's characters and have all sorts of things that excite them, and they're not even playing at all. So have you found your viewers are really getting in? Like, is there continuity in your games that viewers can follow along with? Do they like?
I think there is, and when we break it, they point it out. So, like they know our stuff better than we do. At this point, and it's probably the same for you. The stuff we've created is in more other games than it's in our own games.
Absolutely.
At this point. So yeah, and we do try and we do like, I guess. All right, so we run like 3 regular games. And the 4th was just started with the one I run online, and they're the 3 in-person games. And Scott runs for us short arcs. Like that's just what he likes to do. It's like 4, 7, 9, something like that. I don't even think it goes up to 9s, but that's how many sessions it's going to be. You're going to advance rapidly no matter what the system is. He likes to hand out whatever the XP is right as you're playing. And which is kind of cool for us because then we get to experiment with different systems and stuff. But then you have me and Ted's game, which we basically started right when 5th edition came out. And we're like 12th, 13th level in each of those campaigns. And the objective is to run them up to 20. And like, they both have overarching themes. Right from the beginning, Ted's theme was blood cultists and this demon god, or this blood demon demigod, Narcitus. Mine really didn't develop the theme until a little bit later, and that is the Vargarian Horde, which is basically, I made these like Arcana Punk Borg. That's the threat of the world. So I can only imagine Ted's culmination is for us to actually probably confront Narcitus at some point, or his lieutenants or whatever, and for me, I want them to eventually they have to end this threat to the world. So so we have basically overarching stories, I suppose. That's something new for us as game masters. Like generally, we are notorious for running, game after game that just dies and falls short.
Yeah, I
Well,
know the feeling. Usually when I'm a player, that's when that happens. But yeah, that's one of the most universal experiences, and why I think um, that I'm able to do what I'm doing, and soon Nate will be able to do what he's doing, is that people are craving and hungry for some consistency and for a conclusion. 90% of games seem to fall apart because someone just stops coming, or someone moves away, or there's some disagreement in the group, and you don't get to finish the story. 9 times out of 10, it's incredibly frustrating, and the DM might change their mind and want to do something else, or like, let's play Shadowrun now, or I'm going to do pirates, so we're going to change this, or let's start over because we didn't talk about our expectations and you all suck, and so on and so on. That completing a story is extremely satisfying for many people, and they don't get it. So we can provide that for them, and that's a huge demand.
I want to say for us, like the thing that's helped the most is the fact that we only run our games once a month. Like it takes a long time, but the GMs don't burn out. Like we're rotating from GM to GM. Everyone's getting to play. Everyone's enjoying their characters. And, and like I said, same characters 2 years is a long time for us. But when you break that down, it's only like 24 sessions or whatever, 28 sessions. So it's not that much, but it made it manageable. It made it so that I know I've always been guilty of like being the one to stop a campaign and start a new one, because I would get bored as the DM, and that was back in those days. I was pretty much the one that ran all the time. So, and we played every week. So after 6 months, 180, 6 months of what is that? That's like 24 sessions or something, all crammed together. You just get sick of it, and you want to do something different.
Yeah, I think someone in the chat asked about DM burnout, and
over there now.
It's absolutely a real thing, and definitely. And I'm on a 3-week on, 1 week off schedule. So 1 week of the month I don't run any games at all, and then the other 3 weeks I run, I think 5 or 6 games. I think 5 now. 5 games during that week, and I really try and thematically make them different, and even vary up the system, and that helps. Even so, I really have to take time, really try and find myself a room to be a player, or just play video games or something where I don't have to be in charge. So it happens to me. I wouldn't say I'm in a perpetual state of it, but it can be. It's pretty omnipresent in my experience here. Yeah, I don't have that once a month sort of thing. That would be fantastic. Run 1 game a month. Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah, I've stepped it up a bit now. I do have a weekly game, but even that, I like that game because I like the short session online. I feel like I get more done in that short session sometimes than I do in the live game that's like 4 or 5 hours.
Hmm.
It's
joking around.
Condensed. What was it?
I'm pretty terrible.
So yeah. That 1 week you have off, do you just like lock yourself in an RPG deprivation chamber?
No, I should kind of put it away more entirely, but it's just that I'm because I'm my boss and this is my business. If I don't do it, no one else will. I mean, I have some people helping, but most of it falls on my shoulders. So I can't really take a lot of time away from sitting here and answering comments and messages and organizing things and making videos. I still make videos during that week. But it would be, my wife and I are planning at some point to just use one of those weeks to get away. And then also usually I'll be working like 5 hours a day that week instead of my normal like 10. And then we'll go do family stuff. But I'm still RPGing a video game or thinking about my campaigns, coming up with custom stuff, doing publishing. I don't know if it's healthy or not, but it's I just can't not do it. And I mused on a walk, what would I do, like, if I stopped playing tabletop games? Could I stop playing tabletop games? What would be satisfying and rewarding as far as an entertainment, and do people not play this? And it's just kind of a flabbergasting. I've done it so much and it's so present and for so long. I couldn't think of what would take its place, really.
We kind of started Nerdarchy for that reason, like the reverse, to be like, it justifies. We were kind of drifting away from the hobby collectively, and it kind of like is like one of our motivations for starting Nerdarchy was to anchor us back into it and go, you know what, this is now a business for us. It's a job, and we also kind of perpetuated like the greatest scam of all time on our wives. We're like, no, we're working. Oh, hanging out with the guys. That's a business meeting. So it's been really good for us, and like I said, it was a way to make sure that we kept gaming and kept the hobby fresh for us and kept in it, really, because it's so easy to just get bogged down by everyday life and get pulled out of it. And with that, I'm gonna have to cut everyone short today at just an hour, because I have to get to a school function for my daughter. I have an IEP meeting, so apparently they want me there for that. Yeah,
you should be there for those. Yeah, those are state mandated that you're there. So
yeah,
don't miss that.
I can't send a standee, but thanks, Andrew, for coming out. There's links to Andrew's website as well as his YouTube channel in the description. Go check it out. I'm sure you guys all know who Andrew is from DawnForgedCast. Anyway, look for that Starfinder interview that he's got coming up soon. Is that scheduled? Do you know when that is?
I'm meeting up with him the second or third week of March, somewhere in there. So in the next month. They're not even formally releasing it till Gen Con. So
yeah,
we'll see the big stuff, and I'll be there. So I'm excited about that. But first convention in a long time. But yeah, it's going to be a little while, but a lot of exclusive details, I'm sure.
Nice. Awesome. So guys, look for that on the horizon. Later this week, we've got Keith Baker. Thursday is a little bit up in the air. We might have Crystal Soli on, artist. She does some really amazing work. And Friday should be Matt Colville. So it's going to be a busy rest of the week. Thanks again, Andrew. Everybody else out there, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.